Coming to Monday evenings on BBC Two, Charles Dickens' Chronicle of Greed, Martin Chuzzlewit.
Fortune going begging, and we can't get anywhere near him.
Who'll secure the inheritance? The obsequious?
For such a man, I and my daughters would bear anything whatever.
The ruthless?
You're legacy hunting, Mr. Chuffy, are you?
Or the cynical?
Do other men, or they would do you.
The loved?
She is quite worthy of the sacrifices I have made.
Or the unloved?
She has her eye on the main chance.
But it's a poisonous legacy.
Curse of this family is the love of self. It always has been.
Sumptuous drama meets brilliant farce in Charles Dickens' Martin Chuzzlewit, starring Paul Schofield, Tom Wilkinson, Julia Sawalha, John Mills, Keith Allen, Pete Postlethwaite, Joan Sims, Elizabeth Spriggs, and Philip Franks. Glorious intrigue and selfish ambition. Martin Chuzzlewit begins Monday the 7th of November on BBC Two.
Now, as you've never seen her before, the Queen of Pop reveals everything to the Queen of Chat.
I know that's none of my business, but if you could just say.
In Paris, in bed, in an exclusive interview.
A creamy, smooth pop icon goddess?
Tells all in 15 minutes.
I want to kiss you in Paris.
Now, on BBC One at 9:50, the news with Peter Sissons.
Senior Tories add to the resignation pressure on the minister at the centre of the row over MPs' standards. There was little support for Neil Hamilton from a top cabinet minister who suggested he still owed some explanations. Gordon Wardell, the husband of the murdered Building Society manageress, has been charged with her murder. And a Sinn Féin leader claims Britain's stated aim is a united Ireland. The government says that's nonsense. Good evening. A number of senior figures in the Conservative Party today entered the row about MPs accepting cash and gifts in return for parliamentary favours. Two former ministers urged the Corporate Affairs Minister, Neil Hamilton, who's been named in the allegations but who denies any wrongdoing, to return to the backbenches while he tries to clear his name. A top cabinet minister suggested Mr Hamilton still had some explaining to do, and other senior Tories called for an independent examination of the whole question of the standard of conduct expected from MPs.
Neil Hamilton's position as a minister is becoming increasingly difficult. A growing number of Tory MPs are privately expressing annoyance that after winning the Prime Minister's public support, he seemed to treat the matter lightly during an engagement the next day. The publicity surrounding his stay at the Ritz Hotel in Paris has also hardened opinion in the party, even among former ministers who've had their own share of controversy.
Whether he's innocent or not, he's got to fight the case one way or another. He takes the view that he wants to fight it in public because he's issued writs, there will be court cases, another year or so, it's going to be all over the newspapers. My own instinct is that if he's still a member of government between now and then, he's going to do the rest of the government a lot of damage.
The Prime Minister can quite legitimately say to him, look, you're a minister in the government. Politics is a very rough trade. Appearance and reality are often different. They may or may not be in this case. But appearances make it impossible for you to remain in your job for the time being.
And senior Tory loyalists who turned out for duty turns in the TV studios were concentrating their defence more on Mr Major than the Corporate Affairs Minister.
If you have a minister who is accused of certain things, and he denies it and says he has not accepted any money, what does the Prime Minister do? Does he actually say to him, on your bike? On that basis, any individual member of Parliament can accuse a minister, and without any hearing, he has to resign.
The Cabinet Minister appointed by Mr Major to watch out for banana skins also pointedly avoided adding weight to Mr Hamilton's cause.
He has explained it. It is up to him to continue to explain it.
You believe he's explained it satisfactorily?
Well, at the end of the day, it is up to each individual to explain the circumstances in which they came to accept any show of hospitality of any sort.
Ministers are also under more pressure from senior Tories to combat the cash for questions allegations by setting up an independent investigation into MPs' interests. It's something they're being careful not to rule out. There are indications that opinion among Tory MPs about Mr Hamilton has shifted since last week. The word being used, even by some of his friends, is suspension, with an assurance that he can return to government if and when he clears his name. Tonight, senior Tory sources were expecting the Prime Minister to reconsider his attitude towards Mr Hamilton's position early this week. Richard Bailey, BBC News, Westminster.
The husband of the Building Society manageress Carol Wardell has been charged with her murder. Gordon Wardell is also charged with burglary of the Woolwich Building Society where she worked and with stealing £14,000. Carol Wardell's body was found dumped in a lay-by near Nuneaton last month.
2 days into the murder investigation, Mr Wardell made an emotional appeal for help from the public as police launched a nationwide inquiry. He told officers his wife had been held hostage by a masked gang at their home and he'd been knocked unconscious before being bound and gagged. It was at his home in Meriden that Mr Wardell was arrested last Thursday. For the past 4 days, he's been questioned by detectives at Nuneaton Police Station. It was at Nuneaton that an incident room was set up after Mrs Wardell's body was discovered in a lay-by near the town. When he appears before magistrates in the morning, Mr Wardell faces additional charges of burglary and stealing more than £14,000 from the Nuneaton branch of the Woolwich Building Society where his wife worked. Bob Sinkinson, BBC News.
A leading member of Sinn Féin, Martin McGuinness, claims that he's been told by the British government that Britain is working towards a united Ireland. Mr McGuinness said he'd been given the private assurance at a meeting with a government representative. The Northern Ireland Secretary, Sir Patrick Mayhew, dismissed the claim as patent nonsense.
Martin McGuinness left Belfast this morning for London. The 11-year exclusion order banning him from Great Britain was lifted by the Prime Minister on Friday. Mr McGuinness claims everyone else is now jumping to the tune of the Irish Republicans, and he says the British government is slowly but surely disengaging from Ireland. In a television interview, he went further with allegations that John Major's government had privately assured him it was working for a united Ireland.
In March of last year, I did have a meeting with a representative of the British government who said to us that the eventual outcome of all that Britain was trying to do would be that the island would be as one.
He insisted that the contact, whom he wouldn't identify, was acting with the authority of the Prime Minister and Northern Ireland Secretary. Sir Patrick Mayhew knows the alarm these allegations could cause among unionists, and he speedily dismissed them as patent nonsense, adding, "No British government representative has ever been authorised or ever will be authorised to support a united Ireland, unless it's by the consent of the people of Northern Ireland. So long as it's their wish to remain in the United Kingdom, the British government will uphold that wish." Whitehall sources and some unionists claimed Martin McGuinness was mischief-making and trying to reassure his own hardliners that the IRA ceasefire was yielding political dividends.
If what Martin McGuinness was saying was correct, it would run totally contrary to everything in the Downing Street Declaration and everything that John Major and Sir Patrick Mayhew have said in the past. So the fact that they have come out very, very strongly, very quickly to totally contradict McGuinness, I think is useful, and it will help to allay fears in the unionist community.
But the controversy comes at a delicate time, with the Irish Prime Minister Albert Reynolds and John Major meeting at Chequers tomorrow to try to make progress on the framework document, which will be the basis for the talks. In a speech today, Mr Reynolds spelt out that if Northern Ireland's to stay in the Union, nationalists will expect new cross-border bodies with real powers.
If nationalists are being asked to accept at present the reality and the consequences of the present majority wish for the continuation of the Union, their desire for meaningful north-south institutional links with their executive functions must also be accommodated.
Politicians will have to resolve such complex issues if peace is to hold. Today, hundreds marking the first anniversary of the IRA Shankill Road bombing were told, "We cannot let our tears tie us to the past." George Eakin, BBC News, Belfast.
A British tourist has been shot dead in southern Egypt in an attack apparently carried out by Islamic militants. 3 others were injured, along with their Egyptian driver, when their bus came under fire near the ancient site of Luxor. The dead man has been named as John Byers, aged 46, from London. His wife, Linda, was slightly injured. Their friends, Martine and Michael Morris, were also hurt.
Today's attack is the latest in an ongoing campaign by Islamic militants who are trying to destabilise the Egyptian government. There have been more than 20 attacks on Western visitors since 1992, such as this one in June last year. Over that time, 7 tourists have been killed and more than 50 injured. The British group were travelling in a minibus near Luxor, about 300 miles south of Cairo, when they were attacked this morning. It is thought 3 men opened fire with automatic weapons, killing John Byers and wounding his 3 companions and their driver. In recent months, the Egyptian government has arrested hundreds of Islamic militants in an attempt to stop the violence, and many have been sentenced to death after mass trials. Security has also been increased around tourist sites, with police patrols on main roads. Today, the Egyptian Interior Ministry said in a statement that the bus carrying the 4 Britons had not been travelling on a main tourist route when it was attacked. Tonight, the wounded are being treated in a local hospital. Samira Ahmed, BBC News.
The main opposition candidate in Sri Lanka's forthcoming presidential elections and several senior members of his party have been killed by a bomb at a campaign rally tonight. Gamini Dissanayake of the United National Party was expected to do well in next month's poll. The explosion happened in a suburb of the Sri Lankan capital, Colombo. Reports say up to 30 people died and many more were wounded. No group has yet said it planted the bomb. The Prince of Wales had 3 separate affairs with Camilla Parker Bowles, according to the latest extracts from his authorised biography. The book also says that it was the Prince who initiated his separation from the Princess of Wales.
For the first time, this book gives dates to the affair that the Prince has conducted with Camilla Parker Bowles over a period of more than 20 years. It has been, according to Jonathan Dimbleby, the most intimate friendship of his life. It began in 1972 when the Prince was an officer in the Navy. But during an extended tour at sea, he heard that she had chosen to marry someone else. It was several years later that the affair was resumed, but the Prince is said to have ended it when he got engaged to Lady Diana Spencer, and for the next 5 years there was virtually no contact between them. But Camilla Parker Bowles has always been, in the Prince's own words, his touchstone, and in late 1986 or early 87, with his marriage in trouble, the affair began again. The book also reveals that it was the Prince who initiated the separation from his wife after he felt he was effectively being denied access to his children. The Princess had apparently refused to host a house party at Sandringham, preferring to take the boys elsewhere. It was then that the Prince asked for a separation. The ensuing public debate about whether he was fit to be king has never, according to Dimbleby, led him to contemplate giving up his claim to the throne. And the book says he's been advised that there's no constitutional bar to him becoming king if he divorces or remarries, providing the people do not turn against him.
Public opinion is much more liberal than it was in the 1930s when we had the abdication, and much more liberal than it was in the 1950s when Princess Margaret wasn't able to marry Group Captain Peter Townsend, a divorced man. I don't believe that public opinion would constitute any sort of constraint to remarriage.
The Princess of Wales, who's on a private but very high-profile visit to the United States, is said to feel numbed by the detailed account of her husband's sentiments.
The Prince's staff have dismissed as conjecture a report that he intends to change the family name to Mountbatten Windsor after he's crowned. But despite the furore this book has created, they say he doesn't regret having cooperated with it. He is, though, disappointed that some of Jonathan Dimbleby's views have been relayed as his own. Jenny Bond, BBC News, St James's Palace.
Flights out of Heathrow Airport were disrupted this morning when an office block began to collapse because of landslips on a building site. Earth began slipping into a new tunnel for the Heathrow Express rail link on Friday, causing a collapse on the site. Today, Camborne House near the Terminal 3 car park started to break up as the subsidence spread. Roads and the tube link were closed and flights were delayed as passengers struggled to reach the airport. Football, Manchester United have beaten Blackburn Rovers 4-2 in a dramatic FA Carling Premiership game in which Blackburn had a player sent off. The result means United move above Blackburn into third place, but they're still 7 points behind the leaders Newcastle. Chelsea and Arsenal also won today.
The tone for a match of unrelenting excitement and drama was set after only 13 minutes when Peter Schmeichel's poorly directed punch was punished clinically by Paul Wilhurst. Blackburn might have increased their lead, but instead conceded a penalty just before half-time. Blackburn claimed their defender Henning Berg played the ball,
and their dismay was compounded when Berg was sent off. Eric Cantona scored the penalty. Blackburn retook the lead at the start of the second half, but United quickly equalised and then went ahead for the first time through Mark Hughes. Andrei Kanchelski's second goal late in the game confirmed that in spite of the inevitable distractions of the European Cup, Manchester United remain a potent force in the league. Duncan Jones, BBC News.
That's it from the newsroom. Good night.
Boys and girls are born equal, but by the time they start school, one sex is already outperforming the other. By 8, the education system is favouring one and failing the other. At 14, that gap has become a gulf. And by 18, the future is bleak for one sex and rosy for the other.
In fact, the future is female. Panorama reports, Monday 9:30, BBC One.
Good evening. We're in for a week of showery autumn weather, and by the end of it, it's going to turn much colder as well. Now, at the moment, the weather radar is showing us that most of the showers are in the south and in the west, and that's where they're going to stay overnight. This more persistent rain up in northeastern Scotland will gradually move away. So clear skies on this eastern side, perhaps even a little bit of mistiness across southern parts of England before the night is through. It does mean a bright start to Monday on this eastern side, but the showers will work their way across from the west. Some of those showers are likely to be heavy and thundery, particularly over northwestern parts of the country. Now, they're going to be blown across by some fairly strong and gusty southwesterly winds, and it is going to feel quite chilly tomorrow, with temperatures of just about 11 or 12 Celsius on average. Later on in the day, this little area of low pressure is going to scoot in across southern parts of Britain. So after dark, it'll bring some more persistent rain in across southern parts of Wales and right the way across southern England. But that should clear away for Tuesday, when more showers will move in from the west.
Quentin Tarantino, that's all I'm hearing.
How many Quentins is that?
Hey, he got Travolta dancing again.
Yeah, with an automatic. Now that's some special kind of jive.
Hey, man, I thought he made Harvey Keitel.
Whoa, tell that to the tourists. Harvey Keitel made him.
Well, what is he, a Scorsese for the 90s? No, De Palma's his guiding light.
Yeah, lights, camera, carnage.
Overkill. Okay, sort out the facts from the fiction, guys. Which of these sensitive characters is doing the talking here?
Quentin Tarantino.
How come you're so savvy with his boy wonder? What's the tip?
Watch BBC One. You got Tarantino covered.
Harry Enfield is back with your favourite comic chums.
Did you get that stuff for my bad breath?
Yeah, he's a lager. And some fabby new friends.
Hello. Dr. Philip Boyce Good Looks here.
My name is Michael Payne.
Morning, madam. Do you want me to fill her up?
Oh, young man! Young man! Harry Enfield, a bumper new issue out Friday the 4th of November, BBC One.
He certainly is a comical nutcase.
Harry Enfield is back with your favourite comic chums.
Did you get that stuff for my bad breath?
Yeah, he's a lager. And here are your fakes. And some fabby new friends.
Hello. Dr. Philip Boyce Good Looks here.
My name is Michael Payne.
Morning, madam. Do you want me to fill her up?
Oh, young man! Young man! Harry Enfield, a bumper new issue out Friday the 4th of November, BBC One.
He certainly is a comical nutcase.
The Ministry of Silly Walks is about to step out across BBC Two's screen in Monty Python's Flying Circus.
Sex, lies, and cassette tape. The final climax. When you're pulling strings.
Try getting security work without a sponsor such as myself.
For the great and the good.
Since our contract was with you, I think that you should sort out the mess.
There is no law.
Be careful, Harry. You're no use to this firm taking your meals through a tube.
No morality.
Lost property is what we're talking about here.
There is only the national interest.
There are no loose ends, are there? I'm working on trimming them.
Between the Lines, Wednesday, 9:30, BBC One.
Now, on BBC One, Seaforth. The war is over, and Bob Longman has to face up to fierce confrontation.